That's right, guys. It is El Clásico this weekend, and I'm joined by Dan Thomas from ESPN, who is in Madrid right now.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm well, Dan. What are the vibes in Madrid? Tell me all about it.
And there's nothing quite Madrid on a Clasico week. It all starts quite calm, and then it starts to snowball and get more and more exciting. What's intriguing, of course, going into this tie was what happened at the Camp Nou against Inter Milan. A massive game changer going into this match, meaning that, like, the front page of AS today was talking about all the sadness and depression around Barcelona, and then to the next page, and it's like, well, everyone's happy in Madrid, and that is very much the tone going into Sunday's tie.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, Madrid also had a tie during their midweek clash against Shakhtar Donetsk, but of course it wasn't anything, there wasn't much on the line as there was for Barcelona, of course. Going into this match, is it fair to say that Barcelona need this win?
Yeah, and they need a performance. They need to do something because it's incredible how the tone of Xavi's season has switched so dramatically through those two Champions League ties. Of course, defeat in Italy and then the 3-3 draw. It wasn't just the 3-3 draw, it was the manner of the draw, the way they just capitulated. You can see how nervous they were. Defensively, they just completely fell apart. So going into this is either the perfect solution for Barcelona or a nightmare, depending on how the result goes. Because obviously you go to Real Madrid, you win at the Bernabeu, and then pretty much everything that happened midweek is put aside. If you lose, though, the game against Real Madrid, it's adding gas to what is already a big fire that is burning.
Yeah, and I mean, if we look back at last season, in March, Barca had a terrible season last year, as we all know and remember. And Real Madrid went on to win the UCL La Liga. But Barca beat Real Madrid 4-0 at the Santiago Bernabeu in March last year. I feel like El Clásico is a bit of a different, it's a different game. Nothing matters because this rivalry runs so deep. Does that give Barca any motivation here?
Well, I think you, with your Barcelona ways, you look back at that 4-0 with kind of rose-tinted glasses, but let's not forget, obviously, Karim Benzema didn't play. Real Madrid were focused on La Liga and the Champions League. It didn't really have too much effect on Real Madrid's season overall. Obviously, Barcelona hang their hat on that 4-0, like, this is what we need to do. We're going in the right direction. And it is a little bit cliche, form book is out the window, but also Barcelona go into this tie with a decimated defense, a defense that just looks like it has no idea what it's doing. There's question marks as to who should lead up front with Lewandowski. And this Xavi, Pedri, Busquets midfield, we're not sure if that's quite working out as well as we thought it would. On paper, three quality players, but together we've seen that midfield get overrun quite a lot over recent weeks. So will Xavi maybe bring in a De Jong to strengthen it? And in that case, who does he sacrifice? There's so many questions from a Barcelona perspective going into this tie compared to Real Madrid, where they're just like chugging along, just kind of like getting these results. So that's why all the talk really is about Barcelona more than Real Madrid going into this match.
Now, if you're Xavi right now, I know you just spoke about the midfield, but what about that defensive line? Because it was
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
horrendous on
But
Wednesday. We
I
know
know.
Koundé is meant to be back in the starting lineup. Who do you start in the back if you're Xavi?
It's a massive question, isn't it? Ideally, you'd start Araujo, but he's out for the end of the calendar year. You mentioned Koundé. You're trying to push him back, but how fit are you going to be? You're going to be up against Vinicius Jr., Benzema, Rodrigo. It's an attack that is just going to keep pressure on you. If you're not 100%, if you're not 100% at the Bernabeu, if you're not 100% at the Bernabeu going into our Clásico, these sort of frailties are going to show. Garcia, obviously, but he's got mistakes in him. Gerard Piqué, we saw, can't run anymore. There's a lot of problems that Xavi has going into this tie defensively. And the thing is, Real Madrid know that, and Real Madrid and the fans will be looking to exploit that.
Yeah, and not to mention that we saw Karim Benzema back in action for Real. How dangerous is that for Barcelona?
Well, no, he's going to win the Ballon d'Or next week. So that's that. You've got the best player on the planet as it stands going into a tie where he's always looking to prove himself. Plus, he's got now the supporting act of Rodrigo and Vinicius Jr. have both up their level. So it really is an intimidating prospect for that makeshift Barcelona defense to try and keep this Real Madrid attack quiet.
Yeah, and we've seen though in La Liga, Barcelona have only conceded 1 goal. Now, after
Yeah.
watching these games though, I will say I think there's a lot of luck involved because I've seen the way they played against Mallorca, Celta de Vigo, Elche. And if you look at the results and then you look at the way they play, it doesn't really line up for me personally. But with 1 goal conceded, they look good, domestically.
Nah, as you say, this is against inferior opposition. You're up against Real Madrid. You're up against Inter, and look what you did against them. You're up against Bayern. Look what happened against them. The teams that you mentioned, the fact they're even putting up a fight, maybe just shows once again how weak this Barcelona defense is.
Yeah. And not to mention as well for the attack, Barca have been able to score goals, but the big man is in between the posts for Madrid again with Thibaut Courtois. How massive is that for them?
Well, the thing is, it might be Lunin. There's still a lot of question marks about whether or not Courtois will be fit. Reading the papers this morning, they say it's going to be 50-50. So it'll be intriguing to see whether or not they risk Courtois. And we saw the Champions League final. We know how key he is in these big matches, arguably one of the best goalkeepers in the world. Lunin has come in, hasn't particularly convinced, but that's difficult to do, isn't it? When you're just thrown into one of the biggest clubs in the world and going in as a goalkeeper on that stage. So I think, yeah, obviously that's huge. You think of the spine of this team, you've got Benzema, you've got Modric, and you've got Courtois. You take one of those big key parts out of this Real Madrid side, and that could be one of the positives that Barcelona could take going into this tie.
Yeah, and they have to take anything they can get at this point. If Barca lose this match on Sunday, is Xavi in trouble?
I think Xavi's got enough money in the bank because he's Xavi and the fact that they're second. Obviously, they're going to get knocked out of the Champions League. That's going to be a big blow. It's all about the project and it's all about trying to convince everyone that he is the man to take them forward. Tactically, he made some mistakes, obviously, midweek against Inter. But I think as opposed to a Ronald Koeman situation, Xavi is very likable because of what he's achieved at the club before. And we've seen glimpses of what he wants and how this team is going to work. So it's a case maybe of giving him more time than you would say a normal manager because he is a Barca legend.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think they will give him some more slack. Lastly, I have to ask you, what's your prediction for the match?
It's it'd be interesting after everything I've said if I was to go for a Barcelona victory now. But I just think overall, what we saw midweek was so telling of the weaknesses within this Barcelona side. I think Real Madrid are going to win this and win it quite comfortably. I think it's going to be like a 3-1 win to Carlo Ancelotti's side, which will put them, 3 points clear at the top of the table.
Well, I guess we'll see. El Clasico, guys, is this Sunday at 10:15 Toronto time. Let's see the drama it brings. Thanks for joining us, Dan.
No problem.